Hello, great to see you for Back to Basics Wednesday, day 3 out of 5. Wonderful to be here with you again, see so many of you back. And yeah, I love seeing your names in the chat and all of that. Quick hello to anybody watching on YouTube or on Facebook. If you are, I really hope you'll join me at summerbach.com, www.summerbach.com, because if you go there and just sign up for the free Back to Basics course, you can actually download the materials, the assignments that I'm talking about, the music with my fingerings and bowings in it, all that. Best of all, though, you can be part of the community. You folks in the community have been having some lively discussions in the forums there and asking some great questions. And just like yesterday, in addition to going over the Wednesday suggested assignments I have for you, I'll spend some time going over some questions that have been selected by my team, and I'll leave some time at the end as well to put an eye to the chat for some additional questions. How's everyone's preludio coming along? You're getting excited for the weekend if you're deciding to make a little recording, make a little video? Are you dreading the weekend? If you're still on the fence about whether you're going to make a recording, I would still encourage you to set that as your goal. Because remember, you don't have to show it to anyone. You don't even have to watch it yourself. You know, ask me how much I like watching and listening to my own recordings. Not at all. But having that thing, that event to aim for, it makes the whole project that much sweeter. When you finish it, you pour yourself your favorite beverage, kick back, and then you can look back later on at everything you've accomplished, because you've been doing great work so far. So let's dive in. Let me actually start with a few questions that came up before. You know, one is about exercising / warming up, weights and all that sort of thing. The answer is that I warm up for sure, because I'm sorry when I don't. And we've all been put in situations where we don't have that time, we don't have the chance, but mostly I'm able to arrange things that I have those 10 minutes. If it's a real concert or an audition, you know, I want at least 20, but if I have to make do with 10, I can make do. That routine, so to speak, has changed for me over the years. I don't always use scales as a warm-up, but more and more these days I do. My scales, I want to play musically. I want them to help me warm up my body, warm up my ears, my mind. I don't separate practice really into, okay, here's a warm-up thing, here are some scales, here are some etudes, and I do scales, I do etudes, but I will use those to help me warm up, and I still want to play them musically. I still want to practice for performance, even in my scales, even in my etudes. As far as the weights and other fitness, that's a little bit like diet and sleep for me. I feel better, I play better when I'm taking care of all those things. I do feel that I play better when I'm working out with some weights. That's my favorite kind of workout. It's harder for me to get excited about running on a treadmill or other things like that. You can look at me, I'm not hitting the gym for hours every day, bulking up, but I do enjoy weights with good form, as we have to have in violin also. And there's one other thing. I'll give you a sneak preview. I'll have to reach into the bag of tricks here. It's actually just the violin case, but this is just cool enough I want to show you. It's going to come up in an assignment later in the summer, but I'll go ahead and show you now. This is a little device It's made by a company called Pro Hands. It's called a Grip Master. And don't worry, this is not to torture my hand or even necessarily to make the fingers stronger or make the grip stronger, but because so much of vibrato is about balancing tension, relaxation, and flexibility, a device like this is useful because you can put tension on one individual finger at a time and do things to help with flexibility. So for example, if I put some tension just on the first finger here, and then let me see which way is the best to turn. You see what I'm doing? I'm not moving this part of the finger. Everything from the back of the hand up through this knuckle is staying still, but I'm allowing that last joint, the one that's closest to the fingernail, to flex. And I'll practice that with as much pressure as I can, or tension as I can put into the spring, while still keeping this motion smooth. If it starts to pop, really quickly like that, then I'll know I've got to back off the tension and just make it smooth again. And I'll do a little bit of that for each of the fingers, with the fourth finger being the most difficult to get smooth. So sometimes I'll actually help with the other hand there. But this is something I use as part of the warm-up, and again, it's a limited time. I'm not squeezing a lot to, not interested in bulking up my hand, nor injuring myself, but it's great for getting those joints both more flexible, but also stronger so that they can move smoothly, because in the end, that's the crux of a great vibrato. So that's to speak some about warming up. You can hardly do better than Simon Fisher's great book called Warming Up. And I've had some online and public conversations with him. He's such a fantastic teacher and writer, and his book gets into all kinds of different motions that you can do to help, which are not boring, because I used to have a very boring warm-up, which made me not want to do it, which meant that I would try to play not warmed up. Questions about the higher positions, such as fifth and sixth. Is there anything special you have to do to get ready to play up there? And I assume that's coming up partly for, the so-called famous passages. So I don't want to, I'm going to talk about the bow in those passages, so I might as well now talk about the left hand, since it came up. The biggest mistake that I see people make there, if they're not used to playing in fifth position, is to come around way too much, to have the hand therefore way too high, and to make those fingers super vertical. A lot of people were taught, okay, first, second, third position, fine, but when we get to fourth, we got to start coming around, because we want to leave space there and not touch the violin. And so then as we shift up higher and higher, we've got to bring things higher and higher so as not to touch the violin. Please touch the violin here. It's great for support. So when I play, here's third position, I'm not touching here. Here's fifth position, and I am touching. So you'll notice that my arm has come around some, but it's not around so much that I'm completely free from the side of the instrument here. It's not around so much that my fingers have gotten vertical. No. Some of it's familiarity and repetition, right? But you've got to give yourself a chance, and if those fingers are just straight up and down, then that's no way to find comfort or accuracy or any of that. So I hope that helps to address that, and we're going to be looking at that more as we go into today's assignments. As far as fingerings, I know there have been lots of questions about this one and that one. Just to reiterate what I said yesterday, different fingerings are going to work better for different hands, right? And that's one of those annoying things teachers say, right? Well, maybe the most annoying thing is do this fingering or else. So I tend not to say that. You can be sure that my fingerings have been chosen based on decades of experience playing this material and all of that. But that doesn't mean that they're the best fingerings for every person on the planet. If you have no idea what to do, try mine. If you try mine and you have a different idea about something and you try that and it works great and it's in tune and it feels easier for you, then please do that. Ideally, fingerings are chosen for musical reasons, right? Like this business. We choose that fingering because that allows for the effect that we're pretty sure Bach intended. Could finger it. Or I can't even play it that way. Clearly that's easier technically, musically not nearly as satisfying to the point that we would just call it wrong. So ideally fingerings are chosen for musical reasons first, and then among the good musical choices we try to find one that's the easiest and most secure technically. In a piece that goes by so quickly like this, the technical considerations tend to trump the other things, with apologies for my word choice there. Let me go to one specific place that a number of people have asked about, bar 20, and let's just see what we're dealing with this. So, right, again, this is one of those famous sections we're going to get to, but specifically talking about the fingering, we're in 5th position. Why not just stay in 5th position, since we're going right back there anyway? Why go up a position and then back down a position? And the reason is very simple. Whether you find that reason compelling enough to make the shift up and the shift back is up to your experimentation. But if you look at what's happening on the 2 middle strings, we've got 3 and then 2 in a tritone. If I stay in 5th position, I'm literally switching those 2 fingers. I'm switching their places. So but each finger has to pick up and move over to the other string. That's pretty hard to do in tempo, right? So my fingering allows me to keep the 2 on the same string that it's been on. So no finger has to pick up and move to a different string. And that's the reason. So perfect candidate for you to try both and report back on what you like better. But a number of my choices are made with that in mind, avoiding those horizontal pickups and switches. It's not a big deal if you've got space in between notes. It's less of a big deal if it's a slower tempo. When it's a fast tempo with no spaces between notes, that stuff can be the difference maker in whether it sounds clean and smooth or not. And just a few more before I get to today's assignments. Covering fifths. I said already, and you've noticed for sure if you've tried it, that when you play a fifth, oftentimes it's a pretty different finger shape. than a conventional finger shape, right? Sometimes it can even affect the rest of the hand. You know me, all about the hand frame. I don't want to have to adjust my hand just for the motion of one finger, right? I want to be able to keep my hand steady. Fifths, depending on the fifth, can be a little bit of a tricky exception, right? Sometimes you have to do things with the hand and with the fingers to get that fifth in tune. It only gets worse on the viola, I'm sorry to say. And if that's the case, you live with it. Because if there's a double stop fifth in Bach, you can't not play it. So you can live with that. Maybe you adjust the hand one way for the fifth and then you have to bring it back. If at all possible, you can do it just by changing finger shape. That's even better, but fifths are tricky. Cellists have it even worse. Let's feel lucky we don't play cello. Let's do one more fingering question, and this is from measure 8. Because we don't have a lot of big shifts in this piece, but this is, you know, we're shifting from first to fourth position here if you use my fingering, and it comes so early in the piece. So this is the one in bar 8. Here's bar 7. So we're shifting from a 3 to a 1. If this were slurred, we would have a tough task making that sound very smooth. We would almost certainly hear a little bit of it. I mean, I could make it smooth and not bumpy, but to hide it totally is probably not going to happen, because we're going from a 3 to a 1, and it's a pretty big distance. However, because it's separate bows, that even if those bows are connected, the fact that we are changing bows gives us just enough of a crack to, it's like, you know, those stories about prisons or something where people are able to pass notes to each other through the little cracks in the stone. We've got just enough daylight there. Now you heard, maybe if you listened carefully at this slower tempo, you heard a little shift. That time maybe not at all. That time a little hint of one. What I'm doing is, because I'd rather not have you, the listeners, hear that shift, I'm going to put it right at the end of the old bow. So that was the extreme slow motion. The later I put it and the faster I do it, the less you hear. So that in tempo, it's undetectable. As far as what the hand is doing, I'm sliding the 3 up one note, because that's the note we're going to land on. And then I'm substituting the 1 for the 3. And that happens almost right on the bow change. So I hope that helps. It's one of those things that maybe you've never thought about and it's always gone fine, and now you're annoyed with me for mentioning some things about how it works. But if you have thought about it and it's never worked, maybe this will be the key to getting it there for you. Some other movements in Bach will have more shifts and different styles of shifts, even though we tend to stay away from those really romantic ones in this repertoire. Well, let's get to today's assignments for B2B Basics Wednesday. Now, in fact, the very first assignment is about some fingerings, particularly from 42 to 50. And, you know, I give you the admonition to reach back whenever possible. The reason is that it's just healthier for the hand and easier for the fingers to do, reaching back as opposed to reaching up, especially the first and second fingers. So what this means in general is to have a hand that's high enough on the fingerboard so that the 3 and 4 are comfortable and that 1 and 2 are a little bit reached back. That's healthier than, watch, I'm going to keep all my fingers in the same places, but I'm going to move my hand back. Now the 1 and 2 look pretty comfortable, but that 3 and especially the 4 are reached way up. No good. I'm never going to be able to vibrate in a satisfactory way with that 4, and it's hard for it to have any curve, which affects, that means when I pick it up, it's going to be much weaker when I put it back down. Okay, here's the higher hand again. 4 is able to have a little bit of curve, much springier action, more satisfying vibrato, less tension, all the best stuff. So let's look at 42 through 50. I'm going to back up 2 beats. These are the last 2 beats of 41. Now, this is one of those places where we're living a little bit in between first and second positions. But I'm just going to think of it as all the same position because I'm not going to move the hand. So to me, I'm just calling it first position. Even that little reach up and, reach down and reach back, this is critical to do in this way. What you don't want to do is, see how I moved my hand back and then right back again? There's no need for it, and at tempo, just the chances of it going the wrong distance or disturbing something else are way too high, and it's just not a great habit to get into. Rather, the 1 can do that all day and night. It's what it's great at. And now look how far I'm asking my 1 to reach up, but it doesn't mind. It loves sliding up and down the string. So finally there, I'm truly going to shift down into what I'll call half position for the... So for all that, the hand doesn't move until now. Now, here's a place where in my youth, I'm speaking now of bar 44. I used to stay in half position and just reach my 4 up. Like that. It's working okay now. Nowadays that feels like a little bit too much of a reach for me, and I'm guessing that for the violists out there, that's going to feel like a big reach indeed, down in half position where all the distances are bigger. So what I do now, shift up to true first position, back to half, up, back, for this fifth, because I can't cover it all the time, I have to do that little thing. So I'm not lifting fingers up. And that takes us finally to bar 51. So slowly from this angle, I'll play from bar, I want to make sure I get the right bar 41. For many people, those are going to be the toughest bars to navigate in the whole thing. And if you can get through them without accumulating a whole lot of tension, you're going to be well set up for the second half of the piece. One thing I want to mention, you saw me hopefully release the one, so not here, but here. There I'm going to release the one because otherwise I'm just holding it back too long. I don't want these static reaches and stretches. So it's okay to release the one when keeping it in place is going to accumulate tension. So no worries there. So that I called finger traps. And don't worry, if I'm moving too quickly for some folks, A, that's why this is recorded, and B, if enough people have the same questions, I'll always come back and give a refresh tomorrow. But I want to make sure I can take us through these assignments for today and leave some time for questions at the end. So reaching versus shifting, talked a little bit about that just a moment ago, but it's important for you to know for yourself what you're doing. It's important to have a plan for the left hand. Even, experienced professionals will sometimes realize that in a certain place, they don't know what their hand is doing. It's moving back, but it seems like it's kind of doing it on its own. They're not sure when it's happening. And that can lead to intonation problems. Particularly, this is an issue when we're going up or down just a single position. So let's say we're in third position. And the next thing we have to play would be convenient in second position, like. So something like. If I kind of move everything at once, it can work out okay, but there's that awkward moment where I don't really have an anchor. I'm just kind of moving everything at once. Now that's a necessity if I've got a big distance to go down. There's no way I can leave anything and reach, so there I have no choice, but I support up as I can, but I move everything at once. But in this case, there's no reason to let go of everything and move everything at once. It's such an easy reach back. And then once that's done, let the rest of the hand catch up. So it's reach, then shift. And it's more and more useful the faster things have to go. So same deal, going up just a single position. And sometimes we deal with this even if we're moving two positions. So reaching, then shifting is a great technique to get used to, at least to be aware of what you're doing. Sometimes you may find that, especially if there's a little time, you might want to just move everything at once so as not to reach out of the frame or something. But I do this reaching, then shifting business all the time. Bar 86 and 87, 88, 89, let's look at that little stretch, because that's a great example of those. We're in second position to begin bar 86, at least if you're using my fingerings. Here, I'm about to reach down and then to let the rest of the hand follow. Again, I'm going down from first to half position. Down that low, even just a half step can almost feel like a new position. So I'm treating first and half positions as different positions. Now this, a real shift up to second position. Or reach and follow. Now this would be quite a big reach. I mean, we're asked to do it sometimes to play tenths, but this fast, there's no reason to do that. So I believe the natural phrasing is after these downbeats anyway, so I think there's time. So that's a real shift. Reach and follow. But here, that is a reach, but I'm reaching out of second position and I'm going to stay in second position. Now a shift. And that's kind of the end of the little shifting and, reaching then shifting stretch. Let me play those 4 bars from the other angle so that you can see me reach, then shift. And then in tempo. And if I could just do that one more time, I'd love for you to look and see my fingers lifting quickly, but not very far. And that is going to be one of the keys to playing quickly and cleanly. That you can start to make a change in just a few days, but of course you can spend a lot longer refining that. So that is reaching then shifting. And again, I put in bold, beware the simultaneous reach and shift. It can work and there are times for it. I don't want to say it's always a bad thing, but if you always do that without realizing it, then it can be time to reevaluate and see if you might decouple those two things. Next, we've got 2 kinds of crossings. And if you downloaded the welcome packet and actually went through the preparatory exercises that I laid out for you, you will have come across this Kreutzer number 13. That sounds like a ripoff of a certain Bach cello suite. Let's say I wanted to play that really fast. Then it would be critical for me to make use of the 2 different kinds of string crossings. So you'll remember from the welcome packet, there's the kind involving the arm that takes us across 3 strings. It's too bad I'm wearing such a dark color up top. I hope you can still distinguish my arm all right against the background. So the arm crossing, which is for the bigger motions, as opposed to the little hand crossing that takes us just between 2 strings. and then the arm once again takes us back down. So arm, hand, arm, arm. In this way I could play it quite fast indeed, silly fast you might say, and yet the motions would be smooth. They would almost look like they were happening in slow motion. I probably wouldn't perform that Kreutzer etude anyway, but if I did, I wouldn't play it that fast. Yet, being able to do it means that you're definitely making use of those two kinds of crossings. And bar 43 is a great example. So let's look at that, and then we get to the famous string crossings. I can't wait. So we already went over this for fingering. Now let's look at the bowing. It's the exact same pattern, isn't it? So arm. And where we want to end up is not on the A string level, is it? But on that double stop level between the D and A strings. So that we can just do that. Back to the G string. So, don't try to learn the fingering and fix the bowing at the same time. Do these things separately. So if you're going to look at fingering stuff, you can just use separate bows or just do long slurs or whatever you need, even practice without the bow. That you can work on the left hand, pizzicato if you want. For this, just use the open strings, right? And in that way, you can make this passage smoother, and side benefit, you'll help your left hand out, because if your right arm is tense, trying to get on the right strings, that almost always transfers right over to the other side. Our hands like to mirror each other in tension as well as everything else. And so if that right arm is tense, it's going to get to the left hand, and that's a bad place to get tense in the left hand. We got some reaches to do anyway. Tension makes us want to close into a fist like that, and that hand is going to be dead by the time you reach the section. Not a place you want to be. I was going to say breathing hard. I guess our hands don't breathe, but if they could, they'd be breathing hard there. All right, is it time for famous string crossings? It is. So these are these, right? So, my first piece of advice is to take heart. You will get it. But I'll warn you that it can be, it can seem like nothing is happening. It can seem like you're not making any progress. And then one day you wake up and you've got it. And until that happens, it's very frustrating. You'll be cursing Bach and cursing me and all my silly and stupid advice to you because none of it's working. But then that moment will come. And then you'll wonder why it took me so long to teach it to you. But different things work for different people. What I find tricky about practicing this passage and teaching it is that it tends to be one of those things that is not helped by just practicing it slowly. Now that might work for you. And if it does, then that's certainly easy to do. Just practice it slowly and gradually get it faster. But I find that doesn't work for a lot of people because when we practice slowly, we're able to simply control every note. You know, this note's on the A, E. So you can see what I'm doing. my motions are pretty machine-like and jerky, and that works fine at this tempo. And if you try to speed that up, it'll work up to a point, but that always comes that time. Why isn't it working? And it's because it wasn't built to last. It had a speed limit on it. So what I will say is that if you'd like to try simply practicing this slowly and gradually working it up, then what you must do while you're under tempo is to let the arm and the hand gradually lead you to the next string. Even to the point of kind of blurring or playing little double stops. So you're going to hear so I'm putting, in that case, I'm putting double stops at the end of the old bow, right? I could also practice the other way, where I play a double stop at the start of the new bow. If you can get both of those versions slightly faster, I think that may be a good way to gradually work this up. So you can try that. To actually get into how it works, that helps some people even better. What my arm is going to be doing is alternating or moving between two double stop levels. The double stop level between the top two strings and the double stop level between the middle two strings, right? So it's this level and this level. So the arm is not going to be moving any further than this. That's not very far, and that's a key thing to remember. The hand will move me between these two and these two. So I've got two arm levels, which are the two double stop levels. And within each one of those, I've got two hand positions. So here's another way, is to practice this, and then to switch. So that at least you get used to what the two arm levels are and what the hand feels like working within them. You can practice in tempo, but shorter groups. Starting on different notes. So that was starting at the beginning on the A string. What if I play 5 notes starting on the E string? So that's an up bow. How about the D string? That's also an up bow. So if I'm doing shorter patterns like that, I like to do them quickly. You can do rhythms to make it purposely uneven, right? Or accents. It's one of my favorite techniques. Once you feel like you're starting to get it at a certain tempo, you can do accents under tempo. So first of every 4, second of every 4, 4th, of course. Between all those techniques, if you're willing to you're going to keep moving around it. It's almost like in a boxing match or something. You keep circling around your opponent, gradually hemming in their ways of escape until they're just too tired to fight you anymore. And that's how this passage is. It just, at some point, it will surrender to you. Yeah. So as you watch it in tempo, look how far the arm moves, which is not very far at all. Look where I am in the bow, pretty much smack dab the middle. And look how much the hand moves. It's going to go, in total, it's going to go between the D and the E strings, right? The fingers need to be decently firm, and I mean the proof of that is that I should be able to do it without the involvement of the fingers at all, just a straight fist, right? Etc. So, you know, leave them decently firm so that they're not flopping around and trying to control the proceedings. They really have nothing to do with it. Let's go next. This is emphasis not on downbeat. This is not nearly so long an assignment. It's hardly an assignment at all, really. It's just a reminder that when you make your shaping decisions, let's get away from squareness. Just always putting emphasis on the beat, especially the downbeat, because that's going to be strong enough as it is. Bar 36 to 42. We'll look there, and we'll also look at bar 86 one more time. In bar 36, I think it's nice to go ahead and lean on the high notes a little bit. Yeah, they're not on the downbeats, but we shouldn't fight against that and try to... The harmony does change on those downbeats, but for me that's even more reason not to have to hammer it with the bow as well. I think it's nice to have harmony change, boom, emphasis after harmony, and then emphasis. So... Again, on the second beat. And then 43, we're back on the downbeats, and that's fine because we really need people to hear this G sharp. 5-1. 86. You can create interest. I mentioned a little earlier anyway that I feel these after the downbeats. And then this one brings us back to the downbeats. Or you might say even the couple notes before the downbeat. So look for those ways. And you're not doing it just to be cute or creative. You know, to me, it's how it's written. And you're just allowing that to come out. It's sort of like you've got a sculpture or a building. You've got an existing solid object. You're just shining light on it, different kinds of light from different directions to reveal what's already there. Finally, we've got islands and parallel tracks. I don't have to say too much about islands. You can read in the text. The idea is for you to count your wins. You could say count your blessings, but mark the things that you can already play well. Okay, those places where you say, you know what, I got this. This is pretty well in hand, even if it's just a beat or a bar or 2 bars. You mark it, you draw a little island there to say, you know what, I got this. Let me look at these other places in between, or use the expansion technique. If you've got an island, we covered that on Monday. use the expansion forwards and backwards technique to make it a bigger island. If you've got an island chain, like a bar here, and then kind of a weird bar, and then another bar, and then a weird bar, and then two bars, see if you can, if you've got that island chain, see if you can fill in, expand the gaps so that you end up with a big, I don't know what would that be? Peninsula, something like that. And mark them, count your wins. Last is parallel tracks. That too, I've already made a video on that, so I don't necessarily want to take your time now to go through it. But the idea behind parallel tracks is that you don't wait until everything is in the same shape to try and get everything faster. Because that's, it's like trying to lead a large group to a restaurant or something. You're like, hey, well, what are you doing back there? Come on, let's wait for you. And now, okay, no, you went over there. Instead, like, the people who are hungry and who are ready to eat, like, take them right in there, get them seated and ordering their appetizers and drinks and everything. And then as other people get there, take care of them. What that means for this Bach is if you've got sections that are ready to go and you can do some speed work on them, do that speed work, get your fingers moving, learn what it's like to play these passages fast, because that will inform you about how to get the sections that aren't yet fast. It will inform you how you need to move your fingers for those eventually. If you wait on everything, not only is it going to take longer, but you're going to have this massive challenge once the whole thing is up to this tempo. Well, now how do I take the next step? I've never played these notes fast. If you've played certain sections fast, you can say, well, when I got that one fast, my fingers felt like this. I did this kind of work to make it happen. I put them in groups. I bet this will also help in this section. So parallel tracks, I go into more detail. That's a video on YouTube. What I'd love now is to look at some more questions in the chat in our few minutes. And one last reminder, if you're not watching from summerbach.com, shame on you. No, go to summerbach.com. Free registration for this Bach to Basics. You can download all these materials, get your hands on it yourself. And yes, any of these that you can't see live, do it. I'm trying to figure out how to get us some fun, cool badges on the Summer Bach site, so that if you've even visited one of these daily lessons, you'll get a nice badge on your profile there. Wow, Paula says the hour flew by. I'm happy about that. For me too. Yeah, everybody's picking their favorite island. Maui, that's a good one. I like Maui. Good, a question from Aaron. Why not the opposite bowing in the triple string crossing section? Since I said it's easier to play with a higher note on a down bow. Yeah, it's funny. No matter which one you choose, no, it's easier to play with the higher note. Sorry. Because it's easier to play with a higher note on a down bow. No, the higher note should be on an up bow. So the beginning of that pattern is like that. But then when you go to the lower two strings, it's reversed. The high note's on on a down bow, isn't it? So you've got high note on an up bow, and then high note on a down bow. So no matter which way, if you wanted to start this up, I forget if I can do this or not. I don't know if I can. Okay, so if you're sounding like that, learning this passage, never fear. So that's starting at up bow. I suppose it could work out to the same thing, because you'd have one way, one the other way. If that works, do it. You just have to maybe hook something right before that to get to your up bow. Luke, you're joking about the Bach NFTs, but could happen. But no scams. No animated Bach GIFs. Yeah, the badge thing would just be, so that when you're in the community, people can say, oh yeah, they've got the daily lesson badge. Good. Denise, you're asking about uploading to YouTube. For the last couple of Olympics, that was, sort of a requirement if you wanted to earn points and whatnot. This time, in Back to Basics, there's no points, there's no contest. So, I would be thrilled. We have almost 1,200 people in this community already. We're only on the third day. If this weekend there were 1,200 Bach Preludios uploaded to YouTube and everybody saw the amazing stuff we were doing in Bach to Basics, that would be thrilling and awesome. But it's not a requirement. Some of you may be more motivated if you have plans to put it up there on YouTube. And if so, use that motivation. But YouTube can be for a lot of things. YouTube can be video storage for you, basically. And you only want to share it with a few friends and family. Maybe you only want to share it with those in the Bach to Basics community. So you put it on YouTube, but unlisted, so that only people who have the exact link can see it. And maybe you want to post that link in the Bach to Basics community. That really can be up to you. Well, thanks, Luke, for the kind words about today's lesson. And Peter, as far as the bowing being from the shoulder, what I will say, I think of it as coming from this area right back here, which does mean, yes, that basically the whole thing moves as one, and you could call it moving from the shoulder. I think whatever helps you, certainly getting to the different arm levels. Right. That's happening here without raising the shoulder, of course. And then the back and forth element as well, I think of coming from there. There's a little bit of, right, there's a little bit in the lower part of the arm as well. But the way I think of it, yes, I believe it's what you're saying. Just hard sometimes to find the words to describe it. So good luck with that bariolage, the 3-string bariolage, those 2 famous sections. Be patient with yourself. You saw me struggling with the opposite bowing. So no worries there. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Well, it'll be the Thursday topic in Summer Bach. But try these out. Let me know what you think. And I will see you again tomorrow for more Bach to Basics.